Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smart Trucking Live. Kind of feels like winter out there today. I hope you guys are all doing well, but bundled down and ready. I understand they're getting a snowstorm through Pennsylvania right now, through Scranton area. I guess it's supposed to be kind of rough, so let's hope it doesn't turn too rough. They were talking about banning the trucks off the interstates there, but they haven't yet, not to my knowledge anyway. But winter's definitely with us. Like to say hello to Kenneth Schneider, who's here, Trucker Hershey, who's here, Fred Besmer's here. Fred, I was going to talk to you about your Nicola load there in a minute when I think of it here. But Josh Peterbilt 389 is here. John M is here. Igor is here. All sorts of people. We'll just wait for a few more to catch up here. Trucker Hershey, did I mention him? Edward's here. Kelly Patterson, but not his mom. She had a doctor's appointment, so we'll miss her today, but we'll be thinking of her. Kelly, how are you doing? Claude is here. Scott Kuhn, hello from Illinois. Hello, Scott. Glad you could join us. Giant Squid 222. Hello from South Dakota. I bet you guys, I know you guys have had some winter out there already. Speedy 9 Speed, hello. Kyle, hello. Glad you could join us. Bradley Weaver. Greetings from God's country in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I love Wyoming. Love it out there. I know they have rough winters, but I never minded them. The scenery's just beautiful and the highways are nice, except when they close them. Roger Penske's here. Doug Ackerman. Dave, I have a question from a few shows ago. Doug, ask away. I'll see if I can't get Kathy to grab it this time. We'll answer it here. I got a couple of comments hanging from other little places, and I want to get to that. And here's a really good question that was sent in by Brett, and he emailed it in, I guess. It says, "Hi, from my understanding, the new DOT rule is for a 30-minute reset is optional to take on duty." And he's correct. "The company I work for asks we log off duty for 30 minutes. I don't and haven't been confronted about it yet. I'm paid by the hour. Is it legal for them to force me to log off duty so they don't have to pay me for the 30 minutes? Good question. Good question. You know, and there's a question that if you push it far enough, it would go right to the courts because it's not a well-defined answer. But I'll tell you my take on it, Brett, is the fact that it's your hours that you are recording. So that's your call how you record your hours. They can ask you to do whatever works for them, I suppose. But technically, I don't think they can alter how you choose to spend your work hours. You know, if you're working through that 30-minute break, you got to declare it. It's as simple as that. And I understand why they're trying to change it, because they don't want to pay for it. But trucking companies don't want to pay for all sorts of things. I'd let it ride, but I'd keep logging it on duty if you want, and just see how the whole thing turns out. So, but that's my take on that anyway. Fred, I wanted to talk to you about this Nicola project. I'm glad to hear that they're breaking ground out there. It's been a hell of a fight for this company. I don't know if you've been following it financially or not, but first they were getting big funding and boost from General Motors, and then that got cut off when some short seller in the stock exchange put in a bad financial report about them. They lost a whole bunch of funding, and there was, now there's an ongoing financial investigation into the CEO. And, I think they've got a great product. I hope they continue to advance. I'm glad to hear they're making and breaking ground there. But, it's like anything else. It's a business venture. So I got my fingers crossed for the guy. I'm sure it's incredibly tough to raise money on a project like that, and he'll need millions and millions and millions of dollars. But I think it's a nice truck as trucks go. So I wish them the best. I'm glad to hear they're moving forward with material and groundbreaking out there, though. Anyway, interesting load. I'm glad you told me about that. Fred took some building material to Nicola's new factory build site in Arizona. So I was kind of excited to hear about that.
Josh Peterbilt asks, is the Pete 389 ending after 2021?
No, Peterbilt says no. It's selling too well. They will keep the 389 for the foreseeable future. So no indications like that at all. It's just too popular a truck. They won't discontinue it.
Fred comments that yes, he's on the fence to buy its stock right now. He said it's $16.
I don't know. I don't know what I'd tell you, Fred. I'm not much of a gambler, but it could end up making you rich. It depends. I don't know. I don't know which way to go. I got out of the stock market. It was too up and down for me.
Danny Peasley, what do you think of cameras that are facing at you while driving?
I can understand why carriers want these things. It's primarily because the insurance companies are pushing them on the carriers. And they're saying, well, we'll give you a better rate if you have these cameras. I think, personally, it's an invasion of privacy. And while I wouldn't be so much against it in, say, like a day cab, for instance, if you're just shunting trailers around a yard or doing city deliveries. But if you live in the truck, I'd have a real problem with that. I wouldn't allow for that. No, they can tell you anything they want. They don't record when you're off duty or something like that. I don't believe anything anybody says. So no, I'd be against them. I think it's an invasion of privacy.
Kelly Patterson comments that they don't bother him, but GP Transco is pretty good about not bothering you, and it's optional. And I understood they paid a few more cents a mile if you had one of the cameras in your truck. But as he comments that it is optional.
Yeah, I think that's a great program by GP Transco to come out with that. Give you a couple cents a mile more if you don't mind the camera facing the driver. And it's not mandatory. You don't have to do it. They give you the choice, and they pay you if you want to do it. So I think that's exactly the way to go.
Yeah, that's a nice program.
That's exactly the type of incentive that progressive carriers should all implement.
Well, it makes sense.
It
right?
does. It's a very smart move.
It's a fair move.
Those are smart people over there. Fair people.
He said yes, it is 2 cents. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I remember finding out about that months ago, and I thought, man, that was a good idea. Great idea.
Roger comments that allegedly the driver-facing camera only takes a snapshot once every 10 minutes. So you'd have to say cheese every 10 minutes, I guess.
And I'm sure every trucking company sets their cameras up
differently.
And it's hard to know how they've got them set up or if they set them up the way they tell you they do. So, but I don't know. I like GP Transco's idea on that. I think that's the fair way to go, the smart way to go.
A lot of pressure from the insurance companies, though, for sure.
It's terrible the amount of pull the insurance companies have on the industry. It almost removes some of the decisions from the truck owners just because the insurance company dictates so much policy anymore. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, but they're the ones paying out the big claims, right?
Well, I could go on and on.
With the some of the unskilled drivers behind the wheel, so.
I know.
But they shouldn't be allowing them. They shouldn't be insuring them in the first place.
Exactly. So yeah, I don't like the insurance companies' methodology. If they've got high risk drivers, get rid of the drivers, and don't allow them to be hired in the first place. Ask for a better resume and more experience in some cases, but they let any fool drive the truck, and then they wonder why the crash rate's up. Bad driver training. Not enough driver training. It roots so many problems in this industry.
Someone has asked in the chat, I am thinking about refurbishing a 97 International Eagle with the C12 Cat. Am I wasting my money rebuilding?
I want to know what the truck did, if it was going to run short or run long or pull heavy or something like that. A C12 is a good engine, but you know, it's a small liter engine, it's a small horsepower engine. You don't want to overwork it. So it would depend on the kind of work you plan to do with it. But that would be my first question. What do you plan to use it for? How do you plan to work it? But they're a good motor.
Doug Ackerman asks, is your truck put away for the winter?
Yes, sadly, it is. It is, and I kind of feel sad every year when I do it. But yeah, she's parked for the winter now. She sits out in a lonely field, just outside of town, with buckets over the stacks, greased it up and pulled the batteries, and that's the extent of it.
I didn't get the exact wording, but someone in the chat had asked about how you felt, I believe, about school buses interacting around trucks. And someone has also commented about the buses doing 52 miles an hour. So you might have a comment on that.
I have all sorts of comments about how school buses operate in relation to traffic and trucks and stuff like that. Those guys scare me. They're poorly trained. They're part-time drivers. They just do it for coffee money, and they just think that every time they got to pick up a child, all they have to do is flip the switch, and the stop signs come out, and the red flashing lights go on, and they'll do it, you know, in heavy traffic and on blind corners. It's amazing where these guys will stop, and I guess the school board tells them where to stop, but it is such an unsafe practice. And I've known friends that have come around the corner and had to dodge school buses that were parked in the middle of the road on a blind curve, picking up a child. Like, how much more dangerous could it get? I think that whole program should be revamped.
Yeah, he was asking about buses on the highway, though, on the interstate.
School buses on the interstate?
Yes.
Well, as far as the 52 miles an hour is concerned, yeah, there's another problem.
Yeah,
with
then
them.
that becomes a hazard.
There's a hazard too, and you can understand why they're governed, because for insurance reasons and you know, the idea is to keep the kids safe. But I don't think, you know, if they want to keep the kids safe, they should keep them off the interstate in the first place.
Yes, Trucking with Thomas Lehman. He says bus driver training is terrible. Unfortunately, and that was going to be my comment as well. Virtually nothing.
Yeah.
Really, they're looking for somebody just
we had
fill in these terrible hours.
We had a friend here in town whose family was in the school bus business, and from what we saw, we decided we'd never live out of town because we didn't want our kids on the school bus.
Yeah,
it's that bad.
Yeah, we had decided to live in town rather than by rural property for that very reason, because we knew that they weren't trained, and a lot of them drove like a bat out of hell around here.
And look at
like
the
at
one
a high rate of speed
that you had on that school trip up to, was it North Bay?
Yeah, I don't know where it was, but wow. Oh yes, I know what you're talking about.
The school bus driver was drunk.
He was drunk.
Load of kids
on a school trip. They had to toss him. We ended up reporting him, and they tossed him, and they had to bring another driver in a couple of 100 miles because this guy had been driving with these kids on a school bus drunk.
So, yeah, there's what I think of the school bus industry. Now you've got my opinion on that. This guy scared the hell out of me. Yeah, it's Thomas says it's unsafe for them to be on the interstate, and I completely agree. They shouldn't. I don't see the need for them ever to be on the interstate.
At 52 miles an hour.
Yeah, I'm sure that's, maybe if they go on a school trip, but then the school board should lease them out a coach bus that can do highway speed. And none of these buses yet have seatbelts in them, to my knowledge, and there's another problem I have with them. Why is it good for everybody else and not school buses?
Yeah, Edward commented he should go to jail. Yes, this was a number of years ago, but I was a chaperone on a school trip, and when we called in to the powers that be, one of the things we were asked, are we sure that he wasn't just medicated, that it was diabetic medication? We said, oh, no, he's drunk. So they didn't really want to oust him out of his bus driving job. But anyway, he was ousted.
Yeah, it was inconvenient for the school bus
Yep.
company
Yeah, it was
and
inconvenient.
inconvenient for the school board.
Charles Prentice, hey there, I'm at Swift Academy but struggling to pass my permit, and I'm studying like crazy. All I have to pass is air brakes and combination. Any hints?
Air brake stuff is just pure memorization. That's all it is. Get the book and memorize that little section. Take a mental picture of the diagrams they show you. Air brakes, I could go on and on about that too, but that's the best way to do it. It's just memorize everything you can on air brakes and hope not too many questions pop up. And combinations, you mean like hooking up a set of trailers or something like that by combinations? And that's just a matter of practice. Just get out in the yard and do it.
Bob Weave, my bus driver drank daily. Guy that ran us hauling salt did too. Never got caught. I believe that.
All sorts of
Yep.
old guys used to drink on the road, and they got away with it. But every once in a while, they'd have a killer accident. But it was part of how they stayed awake, I guess. But yeah, scary
Stayed
practice.
awake.
That's what they used to claim. It helped them
God.
stay awake.
Jeez.
But thank God they've clamped down on that practice. So, and there's why now today they're clamping down on drugs, because it's the same thing. It's mind altering. So did you see there so far what do they call that group that gathers up the drugs? They've 46,000 truck drivers taken out of service for failing the drug test so
the
far.
clearinghouse.
The clearinghouse, yeah. 46,000 drivers.
Trucking with Thomas. CDL training in any class is lacking. We need to get training back up to the standard of professionalism. But the powers that be don't care that much. So
Yeah, and I agree that training is completely lax, and I don't understand. Well, I do understand. The ATA dictates just about everything to the FMCSA, and the ATA wants to save money. They want to spend as little money as possible on training, and they've sold this bill of goods to the FMCSA to the point where it's just scary, the lack of training that's mandated, and it's going the wrong direction. And the FMCSA can see the accident rates going up and up every year. They can see the death toll going up and up every year, and yet the most obvious answers are right in front of them, and they choose to ignore them. It's wild.
Joe Smith comments, my bus driver used to stop at the beer distributor and buy beer with kids on the bus. Jeez. Holy
Wow.
smokes.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. It's they talk about the trucking industry being out of control, but trucks and buses are all regulated by the same body, but they don't pay a whole lot of attention to the bus industry. Every once in a while, one of those long haul coach companies will get popped for violations, but not too often. It's pretty rare, and only after a few of them roll over, and then they start an investigation. But school buses.
Hey, we have GP Transco in the house. Welcome.
Welcome, GP Transco.
And we're sending you something fun for the holidays. Check your mail in about a week. Hooray!
All right.
Yay.
I love stuff from them.
Cool.
They sent us the coolest little truck. I play with that on my desk when Kathy's not watching. I'm learning how to back up my toy truck. Container Guru. Sorry I was late. That's all right. 65 was a nightmare. That's all right, man. We're just glad you're here.
Bob Weave, driver shortage, bad drivers.
Yeah. Do you notice now that this trend to increase driver pay is continuing? And Maverick, I noticed here the other day now, has announced that they're upping driver pay, and so is CR England. Now, with a company like CR England, they could say one thing and do another, and they'll hide it in bonus programs and something like that. Like if you get 15 miles to the gallon, you get another cent a mile, or some scam like that. But everyone's working overtime and offering money, waiving money to attract more drivers, because they know that the worst is yet to come. They've seen the clearinghouse results. 46,000 drivers popped. They've seen the fact that all sorts of guys didn't get back into the industry when COVID-19 struck. They know they've got to move the goods, plus they've got to move this vaccine now. That increases the level of freight, and they smell a disaster coming. So it's good for truck drivers that want more wages because they're going to be available. So, and I like that.
Christina Watt, what do you think, Dave? I got myself a 2021 W900L 565 X15 18 speed with 255 wheelbase, 355 rears to pull reefer out of California for Pride Group Logistics in Fort Erie.
What do I think? I think I'm jealous. Sounds like a beautiful
Nice truck.
Yeah, beautiful truck. Nice job too.
All decked
Oh,
out.
I'm envious. I'm envious. Good job. Way to go. Congratulations. Come pick me up. I'll go with you. I really enjoyed running California. I really did. I hauled a lot of stuff, but I really enjoyed the produce.
Igor asked, Dave, what's the worst truck you've ever driven? There's been a few.
I was generally fairly lucky that way because part of what I looked for in a carrier was good equipment. But you get the occasional bugger. But I'd have to think about the worst one. Do you remember any that I used to really complain about, Kath?
Any that made your back hurt?
Yeah.
Any that went over a bump?
Yeah. But no, I was always really picky what I drove. So I was pretty lucky that way.
Oh, that old Freightliner at Trimac.
You know what? Okay, you win. There's probably the worst one right there. I ran for tankers for Trimac Transportation for about a year and a half. And I was bottom man on the seniority list, and they gave me the worst old cab over because I was bottom of the seniority list. They gave me the worst old cab over they had in the yard. And they were so cheap, they didn't even put fuel gauges in the truck. That's how cheap they were. You had to dip the tanks every morning to find out how much fuel was in there because they wouldn't buy fuel gauges. But the other thing they cheaped out on was insulation. And those trucks up here in northern Ontario were so damn cold that you literally had to drive with a snowmobile suit on and keep the fan pointed at the windshield to keep the ice from forming on the windshield. They were crap. Yeah, you're right. That's the worst truck I ever had to drive, and I lasted it.
It was broken every 6 hours.
Oh God, that's the one I broke down in coming home in the freezing weather and stayed with it wrapped in the bunk curtain for 6 hours. Just garbage trucks, just garbage.
Someone has commented in the chat, an 81 International cab over with no power steering, no air conditioning, and no radio.
That first truck I drove was a Transtar 2, and it had no air conditioning, no power steering, or anything like that. But it was my first truck that I ever drove. I didn't own it. It was the first one I ever drove. I love that old thing just because it was my first truck, and I thought it was cool. When I look back now, it wasn't much of a truck, but for that day, that was a pretty typical truck. 318 with a 13 speed, and it was so loud in the cab, I probably should have worn earmuffs when you wound that thing up. God, it was noisy, but I liked it anyway. I liked the cab over part too.
Kyle, I'm not sure what his reference was. 90 hours a week and 0 overtime at $19 an hour with 0 benefits. I don't know what company he was.
Yeah, but he's right. That's what can be so bad about so many trucking companies. Is you'll put in all these hours and don't get paid for half of it, especially if you're by the hour or something like that. You should be by the hour, and then they should be paying you. But all sorts of guys, like in my generation, a 90-hour work week was a standard work week for us. So I was fairly lucky because I ran long. So most of that 90 hours I was running, so I was getting paid. But you get these short haul companies that would still work the guys like 90 hours a week, and they're sitting here, and then they're sitting there, and they're sitting here. And some of them would sit like 20, 30 hours a week and not get a dime for that because they were paid by the mile. And those were the crap jobs.
Edward comments that's theft, Kyle.
Yeah, it is theft.
I agree. And it's not uncommon.
No, although they're finally starting to clamp down on that stuff. But man,
Daniel Meredith comments, I got my CDL through Swift and finished the first year loan agreement and paid it off. Good for you. And since I've been with YRC, and I haven't had a complaint at all, but the pay sure did suck with Swift.
yeah, that's the mega carriers do not like to pay their people well, and the mega carriers, most of them are on the stock market. They're publicly traded companies, so it's not, they don't want to pay the drivers a whole bunch. They've got to pay the stockholders, so the stockholders stay with them and invest and buy more stock. That's what it's all about. So they try to squeeze their operating costs down as low as they can possibly get them, and their biggest operating costs are the drivers. So they pay the drivers absolutely the bare minimum they can get away with, and that's why you don't want to drive for a mega carrier that's publicly traded.
Controlled Chaos. Just got my truck out of the shop and had a broken engine mount. It's a Peterbilt 579, 569,000 miles. Any idea how that happened? He said it's a 2015 Pete 579.
These days, I would just blame the engine mount itself. It's so much of that stuff comes now from China and Mexico. It'll just be bad metal, and I bet you that's all it was. But yeah, that's a little early to be losing an engine mount. But less and less of the truck now is made in the States. They put them together a lot of the time now in the States, but half those parts are from overseas in Mexico, and it's poor quality parts. What was it I put on my Cat? Oh, a starter motor. I changed the starter motor on my Cat, and the Cat dealer says to me, he says it could last 5 years, it could last 5 months. He says they come from China now. Good luck, he said. I thought, man.
Chef Matt comments, being an independent tow operator is job security from so many broken down trucks out there.
It's true, and I think I told the story last week about
Yeah,
that,
we commented on that
Idaho.
in the stream last week.
Yeah, he was making a fortune as a tow truck driver.
And Trucker Hershey comments, broken engine mounts because of the roads. Funny answer, quit driving off roads when off duty.
Well, it's the infrastructure too is in such bad shape anymore. The interstates are so rough now, a lot of them, that you just can hardly drive on them without beating the hell out of your truck. And it could very well be just from the interstates themselves anymore. It's a sad statement, but they haven't put any serious money into the highway system in 30 years, 40 years. No wonder they're broken up.
Kyle has a comment. Good news. I got my own truck at home that I'm going to run for myself the first of the year. I'm only 21, but been driving since I turned 18. Get to quit my low-paying job. He says praying job, but I think he means low-paying job.
Well, good luck.
That's great.
That's a big jump and a hell of a step. Congratulations. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Way to go.
Hey there, SoCal Sandman. I replaced my engine mounts last summer thanks to crappy Indiana roads.
Huh. Interesting. And how old were the engine mounts though? You'd probably gotten a fair bit of life out of them. I'd be curious to know. Probably the first time you've had to swap them. But yeah. So many of the roads anymore are just garbage.
Joe Smith, did you ever haul logs, Dave?
No, I hauled cut lumber, but I never did haul logs. Something I always wanted to do. One of those things I never got around to doing. But the best log hauling work is on the West Coast, and I lived on the West Coast for a little while, but I didn't haul logs when I was out there. I would like to have tried, but I never did get to that. It's on my bucket list. I doubt I'll get to it now, but
SoCal Sandman comments since 2012. And he said he's now replacing his hood for the same reason, the rough roads.
Really, the hood's splitting open
Yeah.
on it? It's sad to see the interstate system coming to that, but it is. I know my friends down there now are complaining about how rough the roads are.
Terry J comments, GP Transco needs to hire Canadian owner-operators. Lots of pros up there. And GP has commented that at the moment they can only hire folks with American citizenship, work permits, or a green card. Maybe someday.
Yeah, that's pretty typical of most American trucking companies. When I was younger, I tried to hire on with an American trucking company, and I tried more than once, and I just couldn't make it happen. But yeah, we could use a few good carriers up here like them.
Controlled chaos sounds right. The shop has made more money on me that I made on the truck so far. And the clutch brake flew apart, as well as 3 years of driving. I've never seen that before either.
Yeah, the shops these days are making a small fortune because the roads are so rough. The trucks are breaking up. The trucks aren't as well built as they used to be. We've got all these emission systems problems now, and there's the truck shops are getting rich, and the dealerships aren't even really worried that they're not selling new trucks hardly at all. They're making it all up in the shops, and that's why they're still doing well. You go to a truck dealership up here, like even a Peter Kenworth dealer, you don't see any big trucks sitting on the lots anymore, like highway trucks, but you see the shops are just full, and they're adding on to the shops.
That's how they make their money now.
That's how they make their money. And somebody told me the other day, oh man, somebody wrote from Jersey. He said the shop time was like $150 an hour in Jersey. Like, just wild.
Bradley coming in with the 50 bomb with the donation. Amazing. Thank you so much for the support, Bradley. He says, love the background. And John M. also coming in with the 10. Thank you both. Thank you both for the generosity, fellas.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I'm studying the CDL manual and getting in better shape. I don't understand car parts mechanics well. Any suggestions on how to practice, learn on fixing the truck? I guess that you're asking about. If you're just getting your CDL, you're just going to be a company driver. So if you're just going to be a company driver, you don't need to know how to fix anything important. So I wouldn't even sweat it. By the time you get your own truck, then have a look at it to see if there's anything left that they'll let you fix.
And then he'll acquire knowledge in time.
And you'll get to know just from freezing up on the side of the highway how to swap fuel filters and stuff like that, how to change coolant lines, and you'll learn just through experience. You'll learn, believe me.
DeWolfie comments, I dislike going to brand shops because their mechanics only know how to replace parts rather than fix them. Boy, that's a good point.
And that's he's exactly right. That's exactly true. I was in a shop last year where they had one licensed mechanic and probably a dozen apprentices. And all this licensed mechanic would do was rotate and check with each one of the apprentices to make sure they were doing stuff right. The shop was charging full labor cost, and yet the apprentice mechanics were only getting paid a pittance because they didn't have a license yet. But that is not an unusual practice of big shops now, and that's why you've got to be careful where you take your truck too. If you own the truck, you want experienced guys working on the trucks, especially if they're these new computer controlled trucks with these systems on it. Man, you can't just have any clown sitting there trying to figure it out and scratch his head while you're paying 120, 130, 150 bucks an hour for them to study it and learn on it, and then it leaves the shop, breaks down, you bring it back. You can't afford that.
Fred comments, Peterbilt in Phoenix, $160 dollars an hour and $200 an hour for RVs. Holy smokes! Woo.
They're making money down there. I always thought I could live in Phoenix, but
wow.
If the cost of
couldn't
everything
afford
is that high, I couldn't afford to live in Phoenix.
Couldn't afford to.
Yeah.
54 Tomcat comments, I should clarify, I don't even know what a fuel line is. He said, that's okay.
That's all right.
I'm not looking to fix things, just to understand how vehicles run in general. He said, this is a brand new animal for me.
I'd be curious to know, you're still working on your CDL, so you don't even have a truck yet. Even the engines are different. I'll be curious to know what you end up with, and pull the hood and send me a picture and we'll go through it together.
There's what you should do. You should do a video on that sometime. There's basic truck knowledge.
Yeah, although, you know, there's so much of the stuff you can't even touch anymore because it invalidates the warranty. Like all you can really handle anymore.
He's
things
just
like-
asking for a basic education
Sure.
here.
But
I didn't mean he was going to do an in-frame.
no, I didn't think you
You
meant
don't need to
that.
teach them how to do that.
No.
And there's a good point with Edward, and I agree. Learning comes with time and experience, and that's
That's
right.
right. That's exactly right. So SoCal Sandman says new parts generate more money. Yep. That's true.
Terry J, if you don't have dirt under your fingernails, you're not a trucker. Yep.
Yeah.
I used to gripe at my grandfather all the time that he ought to have a manicure, but he said that's what made him a truck driver because he had nasty nails.
And you're not a mechanic if you don't have some scarred up knuckles.
Yeah. And greasy hands.
Yeah, and greasy hands. Have you seen all the mechanics these days wear those latex rubber gloves, almost like surgical gloves? It's kind of a nice idea. I thought at first it was a little bit strange, but I bought myself a box of them for working on my truck, and it's kind of nice rather than having to lather up your hands with that stuff just to pull the gloves off.
Do you recycle them?
No. I probably should, but I don't. I just throw them right in the trash because I got oil and stuff on them.
Yeah,
so I don't
true.
I don't want to recycle them.
54 Tomcat says, oh, she's a lady trucker. We were referring to 54 Tomcat as a him, but it's a her.
Oh, goodness. My apologies. It's so hard to tell from the name.
Yes, you can't tell.
Like Controlled Chaos. I'd hate to take a stab at that. That could be an alien guy.
Fred comments he did his first in-frame at 20 years old.
Really, Fred?
Woohoo!
What kind of a motor was it? I'd like to know. Cummins. I'm going to bet Cummins.
Just have a comment here from GP Transco. Any thoughts on the all-digital cockpit coming to some 2021 Cascadias? All 100 that we are getting in 2021 will be equipped with one.
I'd sure want to hope that the truck is under warranty. Like, I love the concept, but if one of those things goes down, I'd sure hate to have to pay for it. They're new trucks. I'm sure you'll have warranty with them, but
Well,
like
2021s, he
yeah,
said.
but I really like the concept. Let's hope you don't need the warranty, but I'd sure want to have that. But yeah, it should be. You know, those panels are so much cleaner and easier to read and check sometimes than the old gauge systems. I'm used to the old gauges, but I've seen some of these new electronic panels, and they're pretty darn sharp. So pretty nice. Way to go. I'm going to come down and drive one. I hope that's okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I'd like to come down and drive one.
Kyle comments the vibrations could probably cause those screens to stop working.
Yeah, you know, they're a whole new ball game, so you're really not even sure what to expect out of them. I know Kenworth tried them for a while, and they've still got them, but they had like a learning curve to figure out what the problems were, the issues, the vibrations, and blotches, blind spots would pop up on the screens from they'd lose pixels
Hope
or
for
whatever
the best.
word are. Oh, yeah, hope for the best, but they should be cool looking anyway.
Kyle also would rather replace one gauge than a whole screen. Yes, so how would that work?
Yeah,
then? Is
that's-
that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's
And
the problem.
GP comments, yes, of course, they always have warranty on their trucks. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool, actually. They have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. We will fly you guys over to review a Tesla Semi when ours come in. Yes!
You guys are getting a Tesla Semi?
Yes! Ooh! I'm in.
I'm in too. I'm in too.
Me first. Cool.
That would be awesome.
Edward with the $10 donation. Thank you very much for the support. Hope you're enjoying the stream thus far.
Controlled Chaos, I did some research on those new Cummins, and you were right about them being nothing but a throwaway engine. Now, it's sad because I'm a Cummins guy, but they're really letting down their valued customers.
You know, in a world where we're being trained to recycle, I'm surprised that you would get an engine.
But they would allow that you know.
No one's stopping them.
Well, there should be somebody.
Well, there should be, but there isn't. So
Who's the boss of the engine manufacturers?
yeah, huh? It's those engines you could rebuild like 2 and 3 times. It wasn't unusual for guys to do that and get all sorts of get 3 million miles out of the same block. That was pretty common. I'm surprised they're going that way, but
GP has commented, we have 2 Tesla semis on pre-order, yes, just to see how they are and find out how useful they are. Cool experiment.
that is cool. When do you expect to get them?
Cool.
I'd love to know when you're expecting them, because
On pre-order.
I'll book my flight now. Actually, you guys aren't that far from us. You're only a day's drive. I drive down. Hell.
Kelly Patterson comments, digital technology has been around for some time now and has been pretty well fleshed out. Separate components be helpful, and the quality of the parts make a huge difference.
Of course.
Yeah, I suppose they probably worked the bugs out.
Of course, and
now.
he's nailed it. The quality of the parts you're putting in, and that's what it's all about. So hopefully Freightliner won't cheap out on something like that. Probably not, because it would cost them a fortune if they had warranty issues with something like that. So
GP comments, we do mostly OTR work, so we would use the Tesla semis for the little local work that we do.
which I would think they're best suited for. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty exciting thing. That's a pretty exciting thing. I'd love to know have they forecast you a delivery date? I'd love to know. That's pretty neat.
I lost who asked the question, but someone had asked how you got into trucking. It was a 2-part question, but that was half of it. or why the interest in trucking.
I was always, when I was a kid, I was interested in anything that moved. I loved boats, cars, trucks, anything you could drive. And when I was, I don't know, like 14 or 15, I was working at a warehouse, and I would talk the shunt drivers into letting me pull trailers in and out of the doors. I always had a fascination for anything that I could drive. I was never interested in flying so much. Like my buddy Rick there, he can't believe that I like to drive stuff but not fly planes, but that didn't interest me. I liked anything that you could drive.
Controlled Chaos comments, I like electric trucks, but the range anxiety is a bit too stressful.
I think, my opinion is that they're going to be the way of the future, and I think they're going to have to solve those range issues. And if that means putting charging stations every 500 miles, I think that's what they're going to need to do. And I see the TA now is making huge financial moves towards upgrading their truck stops, and they haven't said specifically what they're up to, but they're basically reinvesting everything they've got in modernizing their truck stops. And I'm willing to bet that some of it is for these charging stations that they're gonna put in, because they can see the need coming. So I'm waiting for that announcement. But if I was the CEO of the TA, that'd be something I'd be looking at very seriously.
So Cal Sandman comments, I fly RC helicopters, Dave, but you get to stand on the ground while you fly them. Yeah.
You know what? Those things are expensive, though. And the first time I crashed one, and I'd be crashing one like every day, it'd probably put me in the poorhouse after a while. But they are cool. They're really cool, and they're really expensive too. But I'd be afraid I'd wreck too many of them. I hate it when I break stuff. It drives me wild.
Daniel Meredith Jr. coming in with a 3 says, shout out to my girlfriend Raina. Love you.
Aww. Daniel, that's nice. See, if they'd had live stream when I was dating Kathy, I could have done the same thing, but they didn't have anything like that. So.
Oh, boy. Kelly Patterson, you could get 3 million miles on a nuclear battery, but those present a whole different set of potential problems.
Yeah, for sure there are going to be issues with them. It's just going to be a different set of issues. And something I was wondering their last live stream is how they're going to dispose of the batteries, because that's going to be a problem. Those things are the size of Volkswagens, those damn batteries. So, I hope they're not thinking they'll go out and dump them in the ocean somewhere, but that's probably what they've got in mind. But
Kenneth comments, what do you think about the 34-hour reset that all truck drivers would perform together? I picked March 16th.
I think that'd be a great thing. I hope everybody does it. I hope they can do it. It would be that easy to organize. Some guys will get just pure hell from their carriers, but really, why not? Like, what's it hurting? There's going to be a whole lot of freight late, and that's all. And the truck stops are going to be packed, and that's all. And like, why not? And boy, you think the country won't sit up and notice? And that's what it's all about. That's what nobody pays attention to trucks, and the economy depends on them, and people take advantage of us. And I think that would be a great move. I used to advocate for everyone going fishing for the same week in July, and I know that's pretty tough for guys to get away with, but that's what I would do. I'd organize everyone to take the same week off in July and everybody go fishing. Just don't fight with your carrier, just take some time off. And I bet you everybody'd notice that too. But yeah, you've got to do something to get the public to pay attention without hurting anybody. Like these slow rolling convoys, I think that's just stupid. I don't know who came up with that. That just aggravates the public. That doesn't put them on your side. But yep. Yeah, everyone take the same reset at the same time. It's a great idea.
Dave, can you give a shout out to Marina? She's the wife of the GP Transco executive who runs their social media and YouTube.
Hello, Marina. How are you doing? We're a big supporter of GP Transco. Everybody over there is so professional and so nice. And if I was still in trucking and if they hired Canadian guys, I'd be working there.
Maybe you could go over there and sweep floors in the warehouse and work your way up the ladder.
I'd do anything. If
volunteer work.
If GP Transco could set up like a terminal in Naples, Florida, for instance, give me a call. I'll be down there so fast, make your head spin. I'll work out of the terminal in Naples, Florida. Probably they don't have that though. California, I don't know if you got a drop yard in California. I'll go shunt trailers in California for you.
Do you think Scania trucks would be well received by the North American market?
I think they would. I'm sure there'd be like a transition curve, but I think, especially the cab overs, I think those are cool looking trucks, and they're efficient. They're good trucks. They've got the one Scania now I've been reading about has a 777 horsepower engine. Man, you could pull some freight with that right out of the factory. So, I think they'd be great.
There would be a niche market for those inner city deliveries.
Well, and guys would buy them just to have a cab over again.
Well, that's what I mean.
Think how the technology on the ride has improved in the cab overs over all these years. I bet you Scania or however you say it, I bet you they've just got that nailed, because the roads over there are just as rough as over here, or worse, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan with the 5. Thank you very much for that. Hello there. The weather is a nightmare here in the Northeast.
Yeah, Jonathan, thank you. I heard the weather's turning to crap over there. I don't know how long it's supposed to last, but yes, I've been reading that. Scranton, Pennsylvania was getting hit hard there. I was reading about an hour ago. So
if you think parking is bad, imagine fighting for a parking spot to charge your truck just so you can roll the next day.
Yeah, there's another issue with it, and I understand that right now to charge one of those things is like a 6 to an 8 hour process. It's not like fueling the truck that takes 15 minutes and you roll ahead. It's a long drawn out process. So how do you pay a guy for that? He's sitting there with his truck plugged in for 8 hours. Does he go into the bunk and take an extra 2? But he's got to get out of the charger as soon as it's full, so he can't disrupt his 10 hours off for sleep to unplug the truck and move out. There's going to be issues with them, but the concept, I think, is the way that they'll stick with, and that's the way they'll go. If clean air is truly what they're after, I think electric trucks are a huge step towards that, but.
Kenneth with the 5 as well. Thank you very much for that.
Yes, thank you, Kenneth. Appreciate it. But you know, if everything's going to go electric like this, do they expect that in farm equipment and construction equipment and big ships and stuff like that? Because all that stuff emits smoke. So, you know, it's not going to do us much good if we just change the trucks over and leave everything else. It'll slow down this pollution issue that we apparently have. But, you know, and you wonder how much of it too is just political hype. How much of it is just people trying to make money off electric trucks.
Fred comments, lost it already. Nicola, I believe he said we'll have trucks up to 1,000 horsepower.
Is that right? Apparently it's pretty easy to build a lot of horsepower into these electric trucks. Like Tesla at one time was claiming they could go, you know, up an 8% grade with a 45,000 pound load at 60 miles an hour. No problem. Which that'd be great. But yeah, I think there's some big potential horsepower to these electric trucks.
Controlled Chaos comments, I recommended 2 drivers to GP Transco because of your videos. I researched them and I wish other companies could pay attention to how you're supposed to treat and pay a driver. And treatment is a big thing.
It's a huge thing in this industry.
A lot of carriers miss the boat on that one.
I can't get why the majority of carriers just don't get that. And maybe there's just too much separation between the upper management that knows that and the lower management that manages their people. Here you have your most valuable asset, your drivers for a trucking company, and you put some clown in lower management that abuses them. That's just goofy. And maybe it has to do with the size of the carrier. Maybe the carriers now get so big that they should have people down there overseeing how drivers are treated. It's so crucial. But that's one of the hallmarks of a good carrier is how they treat their people. It's not always even just about the money.
It's and that's how they retain people.
And that's how they retain people.
Yeah.
And if you get, you know, like good guys that you're working for, you want to make them happy. You want to do a good job for them. And the whole thing's cyclical. And it's a great working relationship. And, you know, you're happy at the end of the week when you go home. You're proud. Your paycheck's good. It's a win-win for everybody.
John Mack has a question. The best province to be a trucker in?
Well, you stumped me on that one.
And while you're thinking about that, I will shout out the next comment. Jeff Rise, I'd rock a European cab over. Whew.
Would you? Yeah, I'd love
Right
to.
on.
I'd love to try one of those Scanias. As far as the best province, you know, I worked out of Alberta for about 4 years, and I really liked trucking out of there because I was trucking into British Columbia from Alberta. So you got a little bit of the flatlands, you got a little bit of the mountain scenery, you got some of the chaining up, which wasn't always great, but the combination of the two, I really enjoyed. So I quite enjoyed working out in Alberta.
Any tips for good habits to get into as a new driver and bad habits to avoid? Let's do 2 of each. 2 good habits?
Focus. Pay attention. Focus.
On what?
On the road, on what you're doing, on where you're going, on who's in front of you, on who's around you. On who's around you is really important. Check your mirrors, check your gauges. Concentrate on the job. Concentrate on what you're doing. One of the bad habits is don't allow yourself to be distracted by anything. Worst thing is probably the cell phone these days, or the texting or something like that. You just cannot have that.
You're there to drive.
You're there to drive, and it's not just your life. It's the lives of the people around you. So concentrate on what you're doing. Focus on your job. Focus on your job, and stay away from anything that's a distraction. And something else that's a good habit, I guess, is to be well rested every day. Well rested and eat properly, because it makes a difference on how your body performs and you know how long you can sit in the saddle before you get tired and that type of thing. So pay attention to that.
And your attention level, your reaction time is all affected by that.
Get a good night's sleep every night.
GP Transco commented, that's 100% right. We recently had our head of operations call every single company driver to get a better feel for what issues they might be having. And companies need to do this more in general. Yeah, not so sure that's going on in too many places from the reports I get back.
But why?
Sadly.
Why is GP Transco the only carrier that I've heard of that can figure that out? That's a great idea. I don't know why other carriers can't figure that out, but that's what separates GP Transco from the crap carriers. That's why I recommend them. That's why
And
we
Trucker
like them.
Hershey confirms that Mario called me too. So there you go.
Yeah, there's proof right there. Proof's in the pudding.
Dave, Mac Anthem truck or Peterbilt 389 with a Cummins X15 as the first truck? Which is better?
Who's asking? Josh?
Super Duty.
Josh is asking. Josh, I'd get the 389, Josh. I'd get the 389 just because you could run it out west and still get it worked on, whereas you get the Anthem out west on the coast and nobody would know what that was. They'd look at it and go, we don't know how to fix that. And it'll have better resale, better resale than the Anthem. So I'd get the 389, Josh. Just my opinion.
I bet you the Pete's more expensive.
The Pete is more expensive, but when you trade it, you get that money back on the resale. It's just, it's give and take. You lay out a little more, you get it back when you sell it, or the truck will last longer and you just keep it like I did and be proud of it every day still. Jeff's in Moncton, New Brunswick. I've been lost a few times in Moncton, New Brunswick, going around that damn Coliseum down by the waterfront there.
Kyle, any thoughts on auto chains if you take care of them?
I've never tried auto chains, and they're not legal in a whole lot of places. Apparently they're all right to get you out of a spot every once in a while. I don't think that they're a serious option in bad weather, but they're probably all right in a slippery parking lot if you're trying to dig yourself out of a spot in the morning or something like that. But I wouldn't put a set on my truck. I wouldn't put a set on my truck.
Jonathan with a $20 donation. Jonathan, thank you very much for that, my friend. Thanks for all your advice. You helped me stay safe and get through my first year of trucking with Snyder, and now I'm hoping to move to GP Transco. God bless you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Good move. Awesome.
Patrick Jerry comments, the new Max or just a Volvo with the Bulldog on the hood? Ooh.
I believe now. I see Volvo and Max selling out of the same dealership, so I think they're owned by the same parent company, and who that is, I'm not sure, but because half of Volvo's owned in China anymore, but I think they have the same parent company.
Rolling Acres Farmstead comments, we used to have a suggestion box, I gather, at his company. From what I gathered, the suggestions weren't very friendly. The box disappeared one day and hasn't been seen since.
Truck drivers have a tendency sometimes to abuse that type of thing. I think the same thing happened with us at Richardson Transport. Yeah, so yeah, I can believe that. I can understand that.
Rakib asks, Dave, if you wanted to get back to OTR, what carrier would you work for as an owner-operator? Good question.
That's a really good question. Would I be allowed to be based out of the USA? Because I'm Canadian, my choices are so limited
Oh, okay.
as to carriers up here that I'd be stuck. In the States there are all sorts of good choices. Up here, I'm hard pressed to think of a carrier I'd lease onto these days. I really am. That's a sad statement, but it's true. But Canada has never had a reputation for having good carriers. That's part of the reason I went independent.
Not never.
Well, name me one.
Well, today or yesterday?
Anytime. Think of one. I'm hard pressed.
I'm not here to pick sides.
Okay.
Daniel Meredith, I think Dave should start his own driving school and use his truck for training. Ooh.
Is that what you think? I'm not leaning that direction myself. I I appreciate the comment, the suggestion, but I don't think you'll see that happen. I don't think you'll see that happen.
Dylan comments, you don't need chains to get unstuck, just a good old bottle of winter washer fluid, soak your drives, and you'll get out of almost any winter mishap. That's a good tip.
That's just or a bag of sand or something like that. Most of the time you can get out of the parking lots, with just a very little bit of work. But when you're running the mountain passes and stuff like that, especially in Oregon wants you to chain up everything except the transmission, but there's no substitute for good chains. I know they're a pain in the butt to put on, but you can't beat them at the end.
Someone has asked in the chat, it's rolled by, they asked if would you rather haul chemicals or fuel, and you've done both.
I've done both, and the chemicals certainly paid better. I liked the fuel all right, but up here they haul fuel in B trains, and I like the B trains, and it's great if you got a company truck. I wouldn't want to put my own truck pulling that kind of weight, but I did pull chemicals with my truck, the one I still have now. I did that for a little while, and once you get used to the sloshing, which is the hardest part of that, but once you get used to the sloshing, I enjoyed hauling the chemicals.
I hated that.
Kathy didn't like the ride so much, but it takes,
No, I at the stop signs.
oh well.
Oh God, I wanted to get out.
It does take some getting used to. It does take. You've got to ease up and down the road. You got to ease everything, but it made better money, and I got to see more exciting places. There's nothing more fun though than pulling a set of B train tankers and them sending you to a gas station on a Saturday morning and trying to get that thing in and out of there without clipping one of these maniacs in a four-wheeler. It was all right running bulk stations. That was good work, but I didn't like delivering to the gas stations very much.
Kelly Patterson's got the program locked down. He said, remember, Dave, the wife is always right, and when she is wrong, see previous. You got it.
Boy, that's true around here. I was a slow learner when it came to that, but I got it figured out now.
All right, Chad, it's about that time of day now where we start wrapping things up, and it's almost Dave's bedtime, so we'll do a couple more questions here and wrap things up for the evening.
He has to eat, and then we put him to bed.
Wow. Well, I was going to offer to buy Chinese for you guys, but if you're going to harass me, maybe I won't.
Grilled Mortal is in the house.
Just in time, Grilled Mortal. Where have you been?
Time.
Where have you been?
If
We've
you
been
get
waiting
stuck
for
in
you.
an automatic, just wait for spring and you'll get out just fine.
Yeah, dispatch won't be happy, but that's one way out of it. That's for sure.
There was a comment about chains, and I've lost it here, and I believe it was Chef Matt. Where was that?
I just saw one from Wayne's World that I think I can answer. And yes, GP Transco does have owner-operators. I'm pretty sure they're Wayne's World.
Chains won't get you up in
That was it.
But yeah, I believe, give them a call, but I'm pretty sure they do hire owner-operators.
You have a scroll up option.
I know. Yes,
Thomas
please.
Lehman, have a good evening. I am out. We are too.
The comment you were looking for was auto chains won't get you up an 11% grade hill with 43,000 pounds, I don't think.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. Like I say, I've never tried them, but I can't see that they'd be up to doing the same job as a regular set of chains. And I even, like when I chain, I like running triple rail chains, like serious logging chains, not some of the crap you buy at the Flying J. Anyway, are we wrapping up, Nick? Did you want to thank some people?
It depends if you have anything to announce for the rest of the week and any upcoming events we might have.
Not that I can think of. Kathy'd know more about that than I would. Rakib asks, he's seen videos of truck drivers sitting very low in their seats, and they can hardly see above the dash. Mostly classic truckers.
Gee, I wonder who does that.
I do that. I have like a special low base seat. A lot of guys do now, but I do that because it elevates my knees and it's easier on my back. I found a low base seat was easier on my back. I think some guys just do it to look cool. I think a whole lot of guys do it to look cool, but I do it because it's easier on my back.
I think the Lettuce King does it.
Lettuce King does, yeah. Yeah.
And he's short.
Yeah, well, no, I don't.
Shorter than you.
Oh, I know, but we don't have any trouble seeing. It's just like all you can see out those things is hood anyway.
I like being up nice and high. Really high.
Yeah, Kathy always puts the seat right to the top when she's
Couple
on
of
the truck.
pillows.
A couple of pillows, but it's just all what you get used to. But if I put my seat up too high, I can't reach the pedals. So I got to sit low so I can reach the pedals.
Yeah, there you go. You can't look cool with air in the seat.
Yeah, you gotta look cool in your stool, on your stool. Gotta look cool on your stool.
Hey, Kyle coming in with the 20 as well. Thank you very much for that, Kyle. Hope you enjoyed the stream today. Do we
I'm
have
sorry,
any
Nick, go
other?
ahead.
Do we have any other announcements coming up for this weekend or a Friday video? What's that going to be?
I don't know. Ask Kathy. She'll know. She's on top of that stuff. Grilled Mortal. The guys with the 6-foot gear shifts are strange. Yeah.
Okay, so our Friday
I
video
agree.
is going to be a revised version. Some of you might have already seen it, but our extender shift guide, the Canadian version of that. You guys will know the exact title for that. It will be a revised version of that. A lot of people, we realize, haven't seen that video, so we want to re-upload it, and we put a little edit on that, so it should be a little bit more entertaining to watch this time around. Anyways, with that being said, I want to just take a moment to acknowledge our donators for today. Special thank you to everyone who did. Bradley, John M., Edward, Daniel Meredith Jr., Jonathan Mestrel, Kenneth, Jonathan Drake, and Kyle coming in at the end there. Thank you for everyone who donated, and thank you to you, the viewer, who came out and participated in today's Q&A. That'll do us for today. And Dave, if you want to wrap it up from there.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I enjoy chatting with you guys.
Maybe you could grab a few comments here just from the end before we wrap it up.
SoCal Sandman, he's talking about the low seat, says, yeah, all you can see is a head and 2 sets of knuckles holding the steering wheel.
Chef Matt wants to be your first trucking student.
Oh, I'm flattered. I'm not sure I'd be the best guy to teach you.
Bob Weave, tall shifter stops you from resting on the shifter.
The thing I don't like about the tall shifters is that it's hard on the fork mechanism underneath in the transmission. No matter what you do in a truck, at some speed, you're going to set that stick into wiggling and wobbling a little bit. And when that's doing that, it's wearing the forks on the shifting tower. So that's why I don't care for them. And because I sit low anyway, I don't feel the need to have my armpits airing out the whole time I'm driving, shifting gears. I think that's goofy, but...
Somebody in the chat has asked what dash cams and GPS do we recommend. If you go to our website and just go to the search bar and type in GPS, there is a very lengthy article on the GPSs that we recommend. And
anyhow, thank you everybody for joining us. We've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. Love talking to you guys. Take care. The weather's coming in some spots, a lot of spots. So be careful. Keep focused on the road. Take care. Keep the rubber side down, and we'll see you later. Good night.